Our
Sanction Azerbaijan or go back to your country. You don't care. Stop the lies.
This is my video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Wednesday midday, September the 27th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with a happy Nord Stream sabotage anniversary day. I think yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of the Nord Stream sabotage. And Seymour Hersh, he put out an article marking the event, the 1 year anniversary, where General Zaluzhny, allegedly General Zaluzhny, he masterminded the entire Nord Stream sabotage pipeline event with the Andromeda yacht and Gilligan, Skipper, the millionaire and his wife, Ginger and Marianne, and the doctor. And the doctor. You have the professor, but there was a doctor in there as well. And yeah, they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline 1 year ago yesterday. And yeah, Seymour Hersh, in his article, he said that initially it was the plan was being put together by Jake Sullivan, and the plan was to send a message to Russia before the special military operation, before they went into Ukraine. The Biden White House was thinking of a way to send a message to Russia to deter them from entering Ukraine, and then they called an audible, right? The Biden White House Professor Joe Biden. He said, you know what? Russia's going in, or they're about to go in. We're not going to deter them or stop them. So at least let's destroy Germany. And that's the decision that they came up with. So they made it. They made it so that the detonation could occur when Biden gave the okay, and that's what happened on September 26th. Biden gave the okay, and they detonated the explosives remotely. And voila, you have the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. And 6 months after that event went down, you had the collective West mainstream media running articles saying that it was actually General Zaluzhny that put the whole thing together. He was the one that was behind the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. And Germany, they never complained about the fact that their pipeline, the pipeline that they had a stake in to deliver natural gas to Germany, that was critical to the German economy. They had no problem with the fact that the pipeline was blown up, either by Zaluzhny, according to the New York Times, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, the BBC. They claimed Zaluzhny was behind it. They had no problem with that. They continued to give money to Elensky, or, as Seymour Hersh claims, it was the Biden White House. And even then, Germany had no problem with that at all either. Actually, it was Olaf Scholz that was standing right next to Professor Biden when Biden sent a warning that he would blow up the pipeline. This was I think it was 2 weeks before the special military operation got underway, and a reporter asked Professor Biden, how are you going to make sure that Russia's gas is not delivered to Europe? How are you going to make sure that Nord Stream is put out of commission? And Biden was like, don't worry, we're going to do it. And Olaf Scholz was standing right next to him. They were sending a message to Olaf Scholz. They made sure that Olaf Scholz was right next to Professor Biden when Biden said that he is going to take care of Nord Stream. A very interesting press conference that was. But let's see here. The Seymour Hersh article, it says that we realized that the destruction of the 2 Russian pipelines was not related to the Ukrainian war, Seymour Hersh's sources claimed. but was part of a neocon political agenda to keep Scholz and Germany, with winter coming up and the pipelines shut down, from getting cold feet and opening up. Quite an interesting choice of words there from this Seymour Hersh article. According to his sources, they made sure that the Nord Stream pipelines were shut down in order to prevent Scholz from getting cold feet. Because at that time, in September, Scholz was rethinking the sanctions economic war with Russia, because he understood, or maybe he understood, that by sanctioning Russia, Germany was at risk of being deindustrialized. So the source from Seymour Hersh's article is making the claim that they wanted to make sure that whatever bridges Scholz had to return to dialogue with Russia, that those bridges would be completely destroyed. And that's what they did. The Financial Times, they had an article the other day with the title, "Top EU Energy Official Says US Gas Will Be Needed for Decades." Basically, this Financial Times article claims that for the next 5, 10, 20 years, Europe, the EU, is going to be absolutely dependent on US LNG, which is 4, 5, 10 times more expensive than the pipeline gas from Nord Stream. But they don't have any other choice. Actually, Germany is starting to get LNG gas from Russia. They are starting to get LNG gas from Russia, but it's still LNG gas. It's not the dependable, always on pipelined gas, reliable from Russia, cheap, reliable, dependable gas from Russia that powered Germany's economy. That is gone, and that's going to remain gone for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And we have this article from The Telegraph with the title, "Germany Once Again Flirts with Its Sick Man of Europe Past." Someone always has to be the sick man of Europe, and more often than not, in the 78 years since the end of the Second World War, it was Britain. Well, now it's Germany. Even though Britain is not doing too well, they're kind of taking a victory lap at the fact that in the next coming years, Britain's going to avoid being called the sick man of Europe, and the Sick Man of Europe award will be going to Olaf Scholz and the German economy. So that is the article from The Telegraph. Let's now shift gears and talk about the Elensky curse. The Elensky curse got another one. It got the latest victim is the Speaker of the Parliament of Canada, Mr. Anthony Rota. Rota has fallen to the Elensky curse. Now, the Elensky curse, let's run through the Elensky curse's victims. We have Mario Draghi. Mario Draghi is an Elensky curse victim. We have Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, he was an Elensky curse victim. Who else? Liz Truss. Liz Truss fell to the Elensky curse. Who else? Petkov of Bulgaria. He was an Elensky curse victim. I'm trying to think, who else? Who else was a victim of the Elensky curse? Elensky has claimed a lot of bodies. That's for sure. Kaya Kallas. Actually, Kaya Kallas is very unique in the history of the Elensky curse because she fell to the Elensky curse, and then they had elections in Estonia. She was one of the first victims of the Elensky curse, actually. And then they had elections in Estonia, and she came back to power. So I think she's the only person to have fallen victim to the Elensky curse, but to have returned to power. So that's a very interesting distinction for Kaja Kallas, the Prime Minister of Estonia. I think she's the only one that has fallen victim to the Elensky curse, but has returned. And I believe that one day she will fall victim again to the Elensky curse. We're going to have elections in Slovakia and in Poland, so we may have some victims of the Elensky curse when those elections take place. And an abandoned home. Haunted. This is the haunted Nicosia mansion. I don't know if it's haunted. I'm just making that up. But this could probably be a beautiful place if they fixed it up. It's huge. So let me know, have I missed anybody when it comes down to the Elensky curse? I know I'm missing a bunch of people, but I just can't remember them. Anyway, Rota, he's the latest victim. I think the big one, which is going to be coming up very soon, and this is going to be a big one, it's going to be Biden. I think Biden is going to be a big one. But maybe Trudeau. The opposition in Canada, they're calling for Trudeau's resignation. So maybe Trudeau may fall to the Elensky curse. But Biden's going to be the big one. You know, you can make the case that that Trump was one of the first victims of the Elensky curse, if not the first, because it was that phone call with Elensky that got the impeachment going, right? The perfect phone call where Trump called up Elensky, actually met with Elensky, shook his hand. They didn't get along. I think Trump figured out that this guy was a clown very, very early on, but it was that contact with Elensky that got the ball rolling for his impeachment, that phone call. Yeah, so Elensky may curse himself, because we know that there are a lot of forces right now in DC and in Europe that are trying to maneuver Elensky out of power. So maybe Elensky is going to fall victim to his very own curse. That's also a possibility. But I think Biden's going to be the next big one, if I had to make a prediction. We'll see. The Elensky curse remains undefeated. That's for sure. And Trump, we had the news. Excuse me. We had the news yesterday that Trump was found, found guilty in New York for fraud because of his inflated real estate or inflated net worth. Something really ridiculous. A U.S. court finds Donald Trump guilty of fraud. A New York State civil court has found former U.S. President Donald Trump and his family business liable for illegally inflating his net worth. Justice Arthur Engoron revealed on Tuesday. And this is a suit that was brought on by the state attorney general, Letitia James. She sued Trump and the Trump Organization last September, claiming he had lied for a decade about his net worth. The judge found that the reality TV star had inflated the value of his assets by between 2.23 and 3.6 billion in order to secure favorable terms on bank loans, insurance, and other financial resources. The former president has denied wrongdoing in the case, pointing out that not only was no bank harmed by his optimistic valuations of his own possessions, but they profited handsomely to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in interest and fees, and never once took any issue with any of the loans in question. Exactly. So now we're supposed to feel sorry for the banks. We're supposed to actually believe that the banks were the victim of Trump's inflating his net worth. Is that really what we're supposed to believe? That the banks, they didn't do their due diligence, and they had no idea that Trump was pumping up the value of his assets? Are we actually supposed to believe that? The banks gave Trump a loan and they gave him a loan based on pumped up asset valuations, and the banks had no clue. Those poor banks are the victims. Those poor innocent bankers. We really should. We should probably send donations to the bankers, right? To the Wall Street bankers, the bankers of New York, because Trump duped them. Those poor innocent bankers. Boy, they are trying everything. They are trying absolutely everything to prevent Trump from getting the nomination and becoming the president of the United States. Because if Trump gets that nomination, he's going to win. He is going to win. He will beat Biden. The latest polls are showing that, and they are panicking. The deep state, the globalists, they are in a panic. They are doing everything they can to prevent Trump from winning. So U.S. lawmakers, they decided to come to a deal to avoid a government shutdown. It's like a stopgap deal that they agreed to, and it's going to keep the government open for another 4 to 6 weeks. The stopgap bill will reportedly allocate $6.2 billion for assistance to Ukraine, a significant drop from the nearly $25 billion originally sought by Democrats. A large number of Republicans appear to have accepted the more modest aid package. Some GOP members have vowed to oppose any measure that includes funding for Kiev. So from $24 billion, they agreed to $6.2 billion, and now the U.S. government for the next 4 to 6 weeks will remain open. So they avoided a shutdown, but you have senators like Rand Paul, who has said that under no circumstances will he approve money to Ukraine. Rand Paul said, not one more dollar to the Elensky regime, but $6.2 billion. That is what they agreed to. So that means that Republicans have accepted the fact that Ukraine is going to be cut loose. They've accepted the fact that the big counteroffensive was a failure. They've accepted the fact that it's time for Elensky to go. And so they agreed to a significant drop in the Ukraine financial aid. And it also means that the Democrats have also accepted the fact that Ukraine is failing, that Project Ukraine will be cut loose. That is what this signifies. They have all agreed that Project Ukraine should not get $24 billion. And in order to slowly let go of Project Ukraine, they've agreed to $6.2 billion. Now, in 6 weeks, when financing is discussed again, I wouldn't be surprised if they allocate another $6 billion to the Elensky regime, but it is not the $24 billion. It's not even half. They didn't even give 50% of the $24 billion to Elensky. Only $6.2 billion to Elensky. That signals that the leadership in Congress is coming to the realization, or they have realized, that Project Ukraine is failing. They need to slowly, step by step, be done with the Elensky regime and Project Ukraine. And that may explain this letter that was given to the Elensky regime. U.S. officials have circulated a list of priority reforms intended for Ukraine, suggesting that future aid could depend on whether the government complies. Sent out by the White House, the document was reportedly shared with other potential supporters of the Ukraine war effort. So this is a list, a document. It's not really U.S. demands of Ukraine, but it's a step towards U.S. demands. And basically, they're telling the Elensky regime, look, in order to secure more aid from the United States, you have to undergo all of these reforms. And this is like a huge list of reforms, which are impossible for Ukraine to accomplish. I mean, impossible. Like getting rid of corruption, liberalizing gas and oil and energy. That would be disastrous for the Elensky regime. That would cause a ground roots regime change to occur in Ukraine if the government actually removed subsidies and removed support for gas and oil tariffs. That would create a grassroots. What did I say? Ground roots? A grassroots. That would create a real legit grassroots regime change of Elensky, and that's the purpose of this list, of this letter. That is the purpose. They put together this list because they know that it would be impossible for the Elensky regime to accomplish the items that are presented in this document, the reforms that are presented in this document. According to the document, U.S. officials have categorized the reforms based on their urgency, with some labeled as 0 to 3 month priorities, while others are expected to be implemented over a longer period of time, up to 18 months down the road. The most immediate policies include measures to strengthen Ukraine's Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, as well as bolster the staff of the separate National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. Among longer-range goals are a number of judicial and economic reforms, such as the liberalization of the country's gas and electricity tariffs. Yeah, like that's going to ever happen, the liberalization of gas and energy in Ukraine. Never going to happen, and that's the point of this document. This is the U.S.'s way of preparing the ground for the eventual cutting off of Project Ukraine. We wanted them to clean up their acts. We came up with some recommendations, a list of recommendations for reform, and they just couldn't shape up. They couldn't get their act together. We told them to not attack Bakhmut. We told them to focus on the south. They didn't listen to us. We told them that they have to clean up their corruption. They didn't listen to us. What can we do? We gave them $150 billion. That money is long gone. We tried everything we could, but it's not our fault. It's not our fault. The collapse of the Elensky government is not our fault. This is what's going to happen. This is what is coming. And in Alexander's video, he gets into more detail about this list of reforms, and he pretty much says that that's what this list is meant to accomplish. It's about creating the building blocks to get a step closer to cutting off Ukraine, or at a minimum, getting rid of the Elensky regime. So, what else should we talk about? What else is there to discuss here? Poland wants to extradite this Nazi guy, this 98-year-old Nazi that is living in Canada. How did all of these guys end up living in Canada? How did they make their way in Canada? People have been sending me some interesting documents which claim that Canada could have 2,000 of these NAZIs hanging out in Canada. And I think they were meant to go to the UK, but the UK couldn't take them. And so they sent all these 2,000 NAZIs to Canada. Interesting stuff. But now Poland wants this guy extradited. The Ukrainian Nazi veteran, invited and honored in the Canadian Parliament last week, should face prosecution for the actions of the Waffen SS Polish ambassador to Canada, Witold Jeski told CTV National News on Monday he insisted that the Canadian government issue an apology to the Polish people. The Russian Foreign Ministry, they are also sounding off on this NAZI debacle in the Canadian Parliament. And this is what the Russian Foreign Ministry said. They stated that the incident was the best possible way to categorize the regime of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has embraced unbridled Russophobia. The Russian ministry stressed, however, that despite Canada's apologies, the fact remains that the ultra-liberal ideology propagated in Canada and permeated with hatred for Russia, its culture, religious and traditional values, essentially has the same roots as Nazism. Moscow added that it was no coincidence that Canada has monuments to Ukrainian nationalist leaders, while the government allows the overwhelming majority of Nazi veterans like Hunka, who was granted asylum in Canada after the end of World War II, to live out their days in, and I quote, safety, honored and cared for, in particular by Deputy Minister Christoforou, as fighters against Russian communism. And from what I understand, there are many monuments in Canada which actually honor this SS division. If that is indeed the case, then wow, I'm speechless if there are monuments that honor this this SS division, which, from what I've read, was responsible for horrific, absolutely horrific actions against Jews and Poles and Slovaks. I mean, these guys were about as nasty as you can get. And you're telling me there are monuments to this SS division in Canada? Wow. If that is indeed the case, then these monuments, someone better do something about these monuments. That's for sure. Let's do a final story, and we'll get to our clown world. Or let's do a couple of final stories. I read somewhere that Pashinyan of Armenia, that he came out with a statement. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, that Pashinyan said that he will invoice Russia for having a base in Gyumri. We are not in a state to throw away earth. In the near future, we will send an invoice to the Russian Foreign Ministry to pay for the deployment of troops in our country, said Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. Boy, this guy's asking for trouble. This guy is really, really asking for trouble. He's really going after Russia hard, and he's going to get pummeled. Unfortunately, Armenia is also going to pay a very, very heavy price. Has Pashinyan not seen what's happened to all these countries that have decided to embrace the likes of Newland and Samantha Power? Has he not been following the news over the past 10, 20 years? What are you doing, Pashinyan? What are you doing? Oh, boy. What else before I get into my clown world? Oh, Erdogan. He had a very interesting statement about the F16s. Let me pull up what Erdogan said, because this is tied into the whole Menendez affair. And Menendez, okay, everyone knows that he's had problems with corruption. This is not the first time he's been accused of corruption. He had a corruption investigation 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and he got off of that one. But now we have the new corruption against Menendez, and he was taking bars of gold, cash, a home, a Mercedes. He was getting all these gifts from Egyptian businessmen, and they wanted favors from Menendez, and they were giving Menendez all these gifts. And now I think it's the New York prosecutor's office, the New Jersey prosecutor's office After an investigation, they're going after Menendez. And Menendez, he came out and he said, I'm innocent. I haven't done anything wrong. He refuses to step down from his Senate seat. And he says when the truth comes out, everyone will realize that I'm innocent. But, you know, you had a house paid off and cars paid off by these Egyptian businessmen. That's not a good look. Menendez is not as sophisticated as the Clintons, not even as sophisticated as the Bidens. At least send these gifts to a family member, to your son or something like that. Menendez doesn't have a hunter around to take these gifts, and it looks like they went directly to the senator. Anyway, Erdogan, he came out with a statement and he said, you know, now that, and by the way, Menendez was one of the architects of the Russia sanctions, and he would come out and say that Putin is corrupt and Russia is corrupt. That's an interesting fact there, but it's an interesting turn of events. But Erdogan, he came out with a statement and he said, you know, now that Menendez is under investigation, maybe we can look at the F-16 issue, because Menendez, he really, really despised Erdogan. And he was one of the people that was constantly blocking the F-16 deal with Turkey. And now Erdogan is coming out with a statement saying now that Menendez it looks like he's going to be out of the picture, let's talk again about the F-16 deal. For Turkey to get F-16s and to get the F-16 parts. Remember that Erdogan, he released those 5 Azov guys over the summer. He released them with the promise from the Biden White House that he would get the F-16 deal approved. And that didn't happen. And Erdogan wants he wants that F-16 deal to go through. And the person that I believe is holding up that F-16 deal in the Senate is Menendez. So what I think is going on here is that there are forces in the Biden White House, in Congress, the military-industrial complex perhaps as well, which got Menendez. They figured out that Menendez was never going to play ball. He kept on blocking the F-16 deal with Turkey, and they got rid of him, or they're about to get rid of him. They're trying to get him to step down. And Erdogan said in a statement that once he gets the F-16s, once that F-16 deal goes through, Erdogan said that he'll vote for Sweden to get into NATO. That's what's going on with the Menendez thing. Whether he's corrupt or not, the guy was putting up a block to the F-16 deal. And so I think eventually the powers that be, they said, okay, he has to go. We need to get Turkey on side. We have to get Turkey to approve Sweden into NATO and the military-industrial complex. They need to get those F-16s to Turkey so they can make their money as well. And that was it for Menendez. That's what I think is going on. Actually, I'm 100% positive that is what's going on. And it has the added bonus of the U.S. perhaps putting a stop to financial or military aid to Egypt as well, because Egypt is now into BRICS, and this is a way for the Biden White House to also block money to Egypt, because they can say that Egypt was bribing Menendez. So it works out well for those forces that want to get those F-16s to Turkey, that want to hurt BRICS, that want to hurt Egypt, and that want to get Menendez out of the way. It works out very well for them. Anyway, let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. How am I doing on time? I'm doing okay. So we had reports. I can't confirm this, but we had reports that during the G20, once again, I can't confirm this. I'm just going to read you what this article says. It's from Greek City Times. There are reports that Trudeau was depressed and high on coke while in Delhi, says former diplomat. A former Indian diplomat has accused Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of arriving in Delhi for the G20 summit in a plane full of coke and slammed his support for Khalistani terrorists, extremist Sikh separatists. When Justin Trudeau came to India for the G20 this month, his plane was full of coke. He did not come out of his room for 2 days, said Deepak Vohra, former ambassador to Sudan, while speaking to the news journalist Deepak Chaurasia on Monday. Oh boy, do you guys believe this? Do you guys believe that Trudeau was high as a kite for 2 days? Or is this India's way of just sticking it to Trudeau after he said that India killed this Sikh separatist guy, Nijar? Is this their way of getting a little bit of payback to Justin Trudeau? Or maybe both. Two things can be true at the same time. Why not? Oh, man. Well played, India. Well played. All right. So I can't confirm this. I'm just reading you exactly what the diplomat said. The diplomat from India, that is what he said. And I think I may have another Clown World. If you guys give me 1 sec. I think I have a tweet from the Institute for the Study of War. Yes, the Institute for the Study of War, they put out this tweet. Putin may have ordered the Russian military command to hold all Russia's initial defensive positions to create the illusion that Ukrainian counteroffensives have not achieved any tactical or operational effects despite substantial Western support. Oh, that Putin. That Vladimir Putin. Very, very clever. So he created the illusion that Ukraine has not captured Rabotinia 26 times. Putin's very, very clever. And this is coming from the Institute for the Study of War, which is the think tank where Victoria Nuland's sister-in-law, I believe, works or runs or operates, something like that. I forget. But yeah, that's the Institute for the Study of War. It's all one illusion. Ukraine is actually right on the outskirts of Mariupol, everybody, because Putin has created the illusion that Ukrainian forces have not advanced. Oh boy. All right, everybody, that's the video. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter. Now it's called X, from what I understand. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.